Welcome to the Alchemy of Success podcast with Dr. Michael Leslie, PhD, designed to inspire, educate, and empower listeners to embrace a life of abundance in all areas: mind, body, spirit, relationships, and finances. Let's get started.
Hi, and good evening. I'm Dr. Michael Leslie, and welcome to podcast. I have a very special guest tonight. Her name is Leah Garcia, and I'm going to let her introduction play for you so you get an idea of who this extraordinary person is. Leah Garcia is a seasoned financial strategist and insurance professional with nearly 20 years of experience helping entrepreneurs and small business owners protect, grow, and transfer their wealth. Her expertise lies in legacy building and creating generational wealth, ensuring her clients have a strong financial foundation for the future. On this podcast, she shares her unique insights on financial empowerment and business success. Welcome, Leah.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, Dr. Leslie.
When I was introduced to you and that you actually work in the area of finance, I got very excited because, a lot of times people pay attention to their health. They might pay attention to their relationships. Certainly, they pay attention to their ability to express themselves fully and to be who they really want to be. But sometimes they neglect this very important part, which is to make sure your money works, right? To support all of the above. And I think I found myself in that situation many times in my life where I just hadn't given it enough thought. How am I going to make all of these things happen if I don't have the money to make them happen? So I'm really glad that you're here tonight to tell us how we can make our money work through wise financial planning. So I think a good place to start is to ask you, how did you become an expert in financial planning?
I love that question. I actually I was a part-time, and I was a stay-at-home mom raising kids in the Central Valley. And I wanted to find a career. I couldn't really get a regular job because that obviously would take me away from raising my children. I was a stay-at-home mom who was never home. I was a soccer mom, I was a fundraising mom, and I thought of starting a business, but traditional businesses required thousands of dollars. Well, one of my friends had started selling life insurance, and I said, yes, I'm in, because growing up, I didn't know that you could have something you could invest in that could take care of your family when you were no longer here. I grew up on the east side of San Jose on food stamps and welfare. And so when we found out we were expecting, me and my ex-husband, my in-laws required us to sit down with their life insurance agent. It was one of the proudest moments of my life. I found out that I could have something that would take care of my family. I call it a love letter when I'm no longer here for my loved ones. And so it resonated with me. And so I started out part-time. As I was going through my divorce, I needed to find a full-time career. So that's when I transitioned full-time, started serving small business owners and entrepreneurs with health insurance, and really just through osmosis expanded my platform because they requested additional services. They wanted to know about retirement and tax-free retirement and debt and, employee benefits and all these things.
Well, this is amazing because it instructs me in knowing that you can come to whatever your heartfelt desire is from any background that you already have in your life and construct something new for yourself. So if you're feeling like it's stuck or you're not liking what you do, well, this program is actually an opportunity for you to look at how you might accomplish that. And the focus, of course, today is how you can do the financial piece in planning for whatever life that you want to live. So, Leah, what are the basics that one needs to be considering if one wants to have a life of freedom, of full self-expression, and one in which one is not worried about money? Where do you start with that? Where do you usually tell people to look?
Well, in my humble opinion, they start with my one-page financial plan. I call it the Wall of Wealth. It's something that I've curated over many, many years. And it's really an area, it's a one-page financial plan, so you can quickly identify those areas of financial concern for you and your family. And so what I mean by that is it's really about following the order of operations. A lot of I took ninth grade algebra many times. I didn't learn much from it, but I did learn this, that we have to follow the order of operations, right? We do the addition, subtraction, and then multiplication and division. Well, many well-meaning families will put money toward college, yet they have no life insurance. They don't have the right type of health insurance. They don't have an emergency fund. They have lots of debt. They're not putting money towards their retirement. So it really requires us to follow that order of operations. My one-page financial plan will help you to quickly identify those areas. I call them the booby traps, right? That you can identify quickly.
I think it would be really useful tonight if you would give us an outline of what's included on that one page. I mean, it's already amazing enough that there's a one page approach to this. I'm really glad to hear that. But give me an outline of where people should be looking if they're organizing, when they begin to organize themselves, or even to look at what might be necessary to look at if they want to have a platform for getting where they want to go financially.
Well, I don't know if you want me to peel back the onion on the wall of wealth, or if you want me to give you some strategies, or maybe some of both.
Well, I think you could give us a little of both, but here's the question I'm actually asking. So, if on a one pager, you probably there are 5 or 6 things that you say, well, you have to do this, and this. Why don't we start with that so people have some idea of what we're talking about? Because here's the thing, Leah. What happened for me, and maybe this will help you as we move through this. What happened for me is that I didn't even have an idea of what a financial plan should include. I just sort of like put some money in the bank, save some money, put some money in your retirement program, buy some insurance. It's like it was chaotic, right? So I'm
Right.
sure that there's some steps that one should actually take. And
Perfect.
that's what I'm asking you to speak to those 5 or 6 basic things that people need to be doing.
Perfect. Well, there's actually 10 steps in the wall of wealth, but I'm just going to cover the basic foundation. The first layer we need to look at is health insurance, life insurance, and a disability plan. Even if you're a W 2 employee, if you have health insurance through your employer, you need to understand how that program works. What are the gaps? What are the things it pays for and the things it doesn't pay for? Look at life insurance outside of your employer, because if you should lose your job, change employers, that program doesn't go with you. It's not portable. And so you're going to find yourself without life insurance and then some form of a disability plan. A lot of companies offer something like that. The next layer we look at is an emergency fund. I like to refer to this as an opportunity account, right? Some money that we squirrel away, we pay ourselves first, not just for that emergency. By the way, an emergency is not a trip to Tahiti. Okay, it's a real emergency, right? The engine goes out, the refrigerator breaks down. But also, you may come across an investment opportunity. Right now, the stock market is a little squirrely. There are going to be people who are going to be selling things at a discount. Maybe you want to purchase a second home. Maybe you want to purchase another car. So there's going to be some opportunities if we squirrel that money away. And then the next 2 layers go hand in hand, which is retirement and debt. I like to have those married together because a lot of times people ask me, Dr. Leslie, should I pay down my debt or should I save and invest for retirement? And my answer is both. We have to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. So I like to call it, we need to build that muscle of saving and investing. At the same time, we need to understand about how debt works and how it's working against us. So we need to have strategies to quickly pay down our debt and stop overpaying interest, and ways to save and invest for that in a long-term plan or even retirement. So that's some basics on the wall of wealth. Then from there, we can look at college, because I know my culture. A lot of families, well-meaning, will forego a lot of those things, but then they will put money towards their children's college program. They don't have any life insurance. They have the wrong type of health insurance. There's no emergency fund. They're not putting money towards retirement, and they have lots of debt that they are funding their monthly expenses. So does that kind of help?
That's excellent. So this, some people talk about it as the debt trap, right? That people get into financing their present life with money that's borrowed, right? And it comes as a big surprise to them when it all catches up. I remember in not too long ago, I had 60,000. That's right, $60,000 in credit card debt, right?
Right.
And it hit me suddenly because we had been as a family, well, we liked traveling. We wanted our kids to have an opportunity to travel. Then there's, of course, college. And so whatever was necessary, well, okay, we know where to get the money. We're both working, so we can just borrow it, right? But then at some point, what is it that the bill comes due? And I found I was having debt payments that were close to $1,000. Maybe that's a little bit for some people here, but for me, it was a lot of money to be putting out just for debt servicing every month. And so I got about, how we need to be thinking strategically about how we're going to address all of those areas of life. I have a question for you that probably some of people in the program are asking. So, because it was a question I asked myself. So, there's different stages in which you're in life. If you're a younger person, maybe if you're in your 20s or 30s, well, you can start, okay, I'll put some money away for the 5 or 6 areas that you mentioned, right? And then there's people who are in another stage of life. Maybe they're already in their 40s and 50s, and they're trying to figure out, well, what do I do now? And they're almost in emergency about it. And then there's people like really at the close to retirement, and they're even more panicked because they haven't addressed all of these areas, or they can't even find a way to address them now because they don't have enough time, so to speak. The time has run out. There's kind of this feeling that there's not enough time to do all the things that Leah is suggesting I need to do. So let's see if we can separate this out to a couple of questions. If you're in the younger bracket, say if you're in 25 to say 40, I'll give the benefit of the doubt somewhere in there. What should you be doing? If you're in the middle part, like the 40 to 60, maybe 55, somewhere in there, what should you be doing? And then for people who are approaching retirement, what should they be doing? So that's a tripart question that you could answer for each of those demographic groups.
I'll make this really easy for you. There's three basic principles that probably they apply to almost everyone. Number one is overpaying on their insurance cost, overpaying on their car insurance, overpaying on their health insurance, having an overpayment on their life insurance. So that's number one. Number two is overpaying on their debt. They're overpaying on their interest. They don't understand that there are options and alternatives to bankruptcy. I just talked to a client. She says, that's my only option. No, there are actually debt accelerator programs and there are debt negotiator programs. I'm not talking about debt consolidation. I'm talking about negotiating down that debt so you're reducing the interest you're paying, or using a tool that I like to use, which is Cash Map app, that will actually teach you how to reduce the amount of interest you're paying. And number three, we talked about this. It is finding ways to eke out some money in order to save and invest. A lot of people look at their finances, they say, I don't have any resources. Well, I feel like I specialize in helping to reduce some of those areas, reducing some of the taxes, reducing some of the interest payments, reducing some of the insurance costs so that we can eke out some dollars to save and invest.
Very, very, very good news that there is a way to find the money, if you would, or create the money to have a successful financial plan for one's life. So maybe if you're generous enough tonight with us, maybe you would give us some examples of how you can create money so that you can not only save, but also have money to invest. I'm asking you this question for a specific reason. I remember I took, there was a course with Tony Robbins, and he mentioned these buckets. He said you have to have a savings bucket, you have to have an investment bucket. And then he also talked about, surprisingly enough, that you wanted to have a bucket for celebrating your life. That you're not putting everything off until you die or until you're 65 or 70, but you have to have some way to celebrate, to keep living at the same time that you're investing and that you're saving. And there's another bucket: saving, investing, and I can't remember it now. That's what happens to some of this information. But let you jump in on it. So how can people have a life, right, and at the same time do the things that are necessary to save money and to have money for investing?
I believe that all progress starts by telling the truth. That's a quote by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And so many families have their account somewhere, their savings account that they have to kind of pull up on their phone. They have the debt that they have to pull out, credit card statements, and then they have the retirement somewhere. It's all kind of scattered. We have to start by, I call it a spending plan. It is having everything on one page. What we track expands, and what we track and report expands exponentially. And this is what I mean by that. We have to track all of our spending. I don't believe in budgets. I think we should ban that word. Budgets are punitive. I call it a spending plan. So track all of your income and all of your outgo on one page, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And then you need to have all of your debts, credit cards, student loans, car notes, all of that mortgage tracked. You need to know what the balance is, the real balance. Okay. I know it's a little tough, what the interest rate that you're paying. And then you need to know what you have in your retirement accounts, right? And you can use a tool. It is free. It's called Undebted. It is a way that you can track everything on one page, because if we don't know where it is, if we got to start pulling up accounts and finding statements, and then we got to call our HR and get our 401k statement, listen, that's too overwhelming. That's why most people don't do it. But if you invest the time and get everything on one page, then we can start to make progress, because we cannot make progress if we don't really know how much we're spending every month. Right? We're overspending and we're not realizing it. Listen, am I the only one who you go and you swipe the card, and then at the end of the month, you're like, wow, how did I spend so much money? Is it just me? Probably most of us. And then, we have this debt and we don't really know what to do about it. Like I alluded to, there are ways and strategies other than filing bankruptcy that we can mitigate and reduce the interest we're paying. And then when we start to track what's happening with our retirement accounts, we can start asking intelligent questions and really seeing, are we comfortable with how our money is ebb and flowing? I believe in wealth without risk. That's what I teach my clients. I don't believe that we have to risk our money in order to become wealthy.
Well, I'm going to take a break here so people can find out a little bit more about what you do. So let's go ahead and learn a little bit more about Leah Garcia, financial strategist.
Are you ready to take control of your financial future? Introducing Leah Garcia's Wall of Wealth, the ultimate one-page financial plan to protect, distribute, and transfer your wealth with confidence. Whether you're a business owner or just starting your financial journey, this step-by-step guide gives you the tools to create a solid foundation for long-term success. Don't wait to transform your money mind shift. Download your free copy today at leahgarcia.io and start building your wall of wealth now.
So, Leah, let me ask you a question. Is this something that you're prepared to share with us tonight on the program? This one pager, I see you've given us an opportunity to download it. Is that something we can do right now, or do we need to wait?
Well, I shared with you the beginning, right? That's a basic foundation, and I will actually give you the PDF. I'm happy to share that with you for free to your audience. So that's where we start, is with our health, life, and disability insurance emergency fund. Then we talk about 401ks, IRAs, and debt. Remember, those two are married. We got to deal with both of those at the same time. And then we can talk about college. Okay, if we're not doing those, and college, kids can get loans for that. Which parents, please do not finance your children's college. I'm telling you, this is stealing money out of your future. Allow your kids to work through school. It's okay. They'll be okay. I promise you. Okay. Unless you already have that money set aside. And then from there, I talk about what is the long-term goals that they want to achieve. Do they want to buy a vacation home? Do they need another car? What are those long-term goals? And let's start eking out some money for that. And then from there, we talk about what is tax-free. What do you own that is tax-free? Most families, especially if they're W-2, their two major assets they have are their home and their 401k. And both of those are tax deferred, meaning that at some point in retirement, you're going to pay taxes on those two most significant assets that you have. So we need to start creating something that is tax-free. And this is a big one. This is a big one that most people just miss. You have to find a way to create your own personal private pension. If you are an employee right now and your employer does not offer a pension, I can show you options on how you can create another income stream, a personal private pension that pays you the rest of your life, just like Social Security would. And then from there, this is the one that I see is the biggest booby trap, Dr. Leslie. I wish that I could just shout this from the rooftops. People don't have anything for long term care. They tell me that my kids are going to take care of me. That's okay. I'm going to have my children take care of me. Well, let me give you a secret. Okay. This is the real deal. You didn't come here for puppy dogs and ponies. This is the real deal. Your children do not want to care for you. And by the way, you don't want them to. That's a huge burden. And at the same time, that do you want the last memories of you and your child to be of them caring for you, or do you want those last memories to be of sharing memories, going places together, telling family stories? So there are strategies that you can have, which one is really simple. Having a rider on a life insurance policy is a really, really easy to way. Have a permanent life insurance policy with a long-term care rider. That is a way to eclipse the cost of long-term care. And then that's where the other investments come in. And let me break this down for you. A lot of people say, I'm going to invest in Bitcoin. I'm going to invest my money in real estate. But guess what? If the real estate crashes, if rents decrease, if we have a pandemic and you can't collect those rents, what happens? Right? You built your house on a house of cards. So not until we have everything established in the wall of wealth, then we look at those other assets. And then what protects everything is our living trust. Yes, a properly funded and current living trust plan. Please don't go and try to do it yourself. Your house is worth thousands, hundreds of thousands, and maybe even millions. Your retirement plan, you've worked so hard to accumulate that. Have a properly funded and current living trust plan to properly protect, distribute, and transfer your wealth. Does that help?
This is not only helps, I'll tell you what it's doing. It's making me very uncomfortable because I don't think I have maybe even 15% of the things that you've talked about in place. So here's a common experience, and I know and I had talked about. Well, let's talk about a bit about how to deal with the human nature part of this, right? How people in the psychological states that they are in related to money, because some people don't even want to talk about it. We know those. They're just hoping it works out somehow. I think I've been one of those, and the
Hope,
other is that.
gratitude.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And then the other are people who say, "Well, I wish somebody else could take care of this for me," and they're kind of interested in having that happen, but maybe they think it's out of reach, right? So maybe you can, if you want to start, let's talk about how do you deal with, as I said, this fear about, oh, I don't know how to do all those. I hear all those things she's saying, and I know they would be great, but I don't know how to do them, and I don't even know if I can afford to have someone else do them. So, what do you say to people like me who are in that state and know that they need help, but are like, I don't know if I can really do this?
Yeah. Number one, I call it our growth money mind shift. We have to have a shift in our thinking. I know a lot of people talk about mindset. With all due respect, I think something that is static, it's sedentary. With money, money is currency. It is vibrant. It's meant to be flowing and growing. So I refer to it as we got to upgrade our stinking thinking and upgrade our growth money mind shift. So that's number one. And number two, listen, getting rich and wealthy is not a do-it-yourself project. It truly isn't. There are many financial strategists that are very, very affordable. A lot of them wouldn't even charge you if you're just getting started. I do a lot of that work for somebody who just wants to see where they are and then to start to implement things. Like I shared in the beginning, all progress starts by telling the truth. We have to look towards our money. If we haven't figured this out by now, I don't care who the president is or isn't. Nobody's coming to save us. We have to save ourselves.
So I heard something that I actually liked hearing, and that was that not only, well, I added a little bit to it. So you said we have to save ourselves. And my question then is, can I save myself? I'm asking this question for other people in this broadcast. Can I do this? And how would I do this? And what would be my first steps to do in order to get this done?
Well, again, it requires you finding a professional that you feel comfortable with. The work that I do isn't just about the numbers. I really like to get to know the family. I like to begin with the end in mind. So if I know what assets that they want to leave behind with their living trust, then we can reverse engineer what we're going to put together because wealth looks different for everybody. That's number one. And if you're later in the years and you say, well, I don't have a lot of money to retire, the number one strategy you need to work on is the debt. We need to get that debt paid off. True retirement, in my humble opinion, is being completely, totally debt free. No mortgage, no student loans, no credit cards, no car notes. And one of the ways to do that where you can quickly pay down your debt is CashMap app. I've literally have had clients. I just helped a client take a 30-year mortgage, and she is going to be completely out of debt from her mortgage in about 7 years. I mean, think about that. If you have 5 to 7 years from retirement, if we're not have a lot of time to build those assets, we can definitely pay down that debt. Now, when you're debt free, that's a completely different conversation. Now we can talk about, okay, I'm going to retire. I've got a little bit of savings. Maybe I'm going to do a side hustle or something to make some extra income to make up the difference. But if we're trying to retire and accumulate this wealth, but we still have all this debt, that's called a nightmare. It's called a boomerang. You will come out of debt, out of retirement because of the debt.
Mm. You know, the something you mentioned, I want to refocus on again, and that's the necessity of working with someone
Yeah.
in order to get this done. I know from my own experience that I've tried many times to even to do this podcast that I'm doing tonight, trying to do it on my own. And, I think it's 15 years I was working on that. And then I started working with Jason Wilson, and we're here. Right. So, and
Right.
it took all of maybe a week or two. I don't know if it even took that, if I look at the time we actually invested in it. So, this business of working with other people, I think there's part of human nature, for some human beings' nature, is this lack of trust.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to take somebody and I'm going to give them some money. How do I know they're going to do for me what I expect them, or I even paying them to do for me? So how do you do that? How does one bridge the gap between the trust gap?
This is a brilliant question because I see many financial entertainers that are giving advice. They have written books, they've got podcasts, they may even be on YouTube, and they may even be on television. But if they are not licensed, trained, and certified, they have no business giving financial advice. That's first and foremost. So look and see if they're licensed. And there's a lot of people who are financial gurus, but they have no credentials. So that's first and foremost. And number two, I would say interview at least 3 people. You want to get to know them and who they are. Listen, I'm a tabula rasa. That's why I'm all over social media. People can easily find out things about me, and either I resonate with them or I don't, because I'm not for everybody, right? And then I would say number 3 is going to be really understanding that at some point you have to relinquish control. It's like we need a car engine. Most of us are not going to go in our garage and drop a new motor in our car, right? We're going to need a professional. If we need surgery, we're not going to go and try to do it ourselves. We're going to try to find the best surgeon in, what is in network that is going to help us to save our life. Listen, finances is a big deal. I have seen people do desperate things when they lose money, and it is not pretty. We're seeing it all over the news, right? Because I believe true wealth is having wealth in all areas of your life. I call it the 5 F's, meaning that in your faith, your family, your finance, your fitness, and fun. Because if you accumulate a bunch of money just to spend a bunch of money, in my mind, that's not wealth. And if you accumulate a bunch of money just to pay a bunch of money in taxes, well, that's not wealth either. I believe that having wealth, as I have more, I can give more. Give more to my family. I can give more to my community. I can give more to my synagogue or whatever, maybe start a nonprofit. And when we get really excited about the end, then that's what incentivizes us to make those decisions. Listen, and I touched on this in the beginning, but I want to peel back the onion on a budget. This is why budgets don't work. We feel like we're being punished. We feel like somebody else is coming to us and dictating what we can and cannot spend. I never tell my clients, I never put my hand in their pocket and tell them what they have and cannot and must buy. I just don't do that. I bring awareness and we start tracking. And as we start to pay down the debt, as we start to grow some assets, you know what happens, Dr. Leslie? They start to get excited and they start to make different decisions. Wow, Leah, you mean that if I'm spending this $50 a week, that's $200 a month, that's $2,400 a year. If I have compound interest on that, you mean that that could be $3,000, $4,000, $5,000? That's the growth money mind shift that happens. And it happens through osmosis. It happens naturally. Because as we make progress, what? Progress is happiness. If I'm going to the gym for 2 years and I never see any progress, I'm going to say, forget it. Let me go have the bonbons and ice cream, right? But if I'm going to the gym diligently and I'm getting the trainer and I'm tracking my progress and I start to see progress, what happens? I start to push away from the honey buns. I start to push away from the ice cream. I start to get excited about getting up at 6 or 5 a.m. to go to the gym. Does that make sense?
It does. And I want to ask you a very direct question. And that's what would people have to invest in order to work with you? I know you work with people who own businesses. I know you work with people who don't own businesses. So give us some idea of what it would take to have an expert, Leah Garcia, on their team helping them reach their financial goals.
Yeah, we can start with as little as $200 a month. If you've got $200 a month and some debt, okay, and you're trying to figure out where to put this money, I'm happy to assist you, help you get your one-page financial plan. Because then as you start to make some progress, we're going to have different conversations, right? As you start to grow your wealth, then we start talking about tax mitigation, advanced tax planning. That's where it gets really fun. So if somebody has $200 a month, or maybe they don't even think they have $200 a month, but they have some debt, okay, they're putting some money into a 401k. We may be able to reposition assets so that we're able to eke out that $200. Maybe they have some health insurance that they're overpaying for, that we can reduce the premiums on that. Maybe they have interest. I hate to go back to that, but they're overpaying on their interest, and we can find some ways to mitigate that interest. I just helped a client. She was thinking about filing bankruptcy. She's got about $40,000 in credit card debt. Her niece, actually her granddaughter, got a hold of her credit card, and within a couple of months charged up thousands of dollars on her credit cards, unbeknownst to her, right? So she's thinking about just going ahead and filing bankruptcy. If at all possible, we want to avoid bankruptcy. So I'm taking her through a debt reduction program, right? They're going to negotiate down that debt. Well, she will pay pennies on the dollar to be able to get that debt paid off within a very short period of time. Okay.
I'm speaking to Leah Garcia, financial strategist, and I want you to know how you can get in touch with her to take advantage of her extraordinary knowledge and services. So here we have an announcement about her again.
Are you ready to take control of your financial future? Introducing Leah Garcia's Wall of Wealth, the ultimate one-page financial plan to protect, distribute, and transfer your wealth with confidence. Whether you're a business owner or just starting your financial journey, this step-by-step guide gives you the tools to create a solid foundation for long-term success. Don't wait to transform your money mind shift. Download your free copy today at leahgarcia.io and start building your wall of wealth now.
Great. So, Leah, I want to take our conversation in another direction. And we had spoken about this earlier. So, you used the terms, they intrigued me actually, habits, rituals, and what was the third one?
Routines.
Routines, habits, rituals, and routines. So I'm assuming all of those have something to do with being financially successful. So why don't you speak to us about these habits, the rituals and routines that lead to financial security?
And I don't know that it's directly like dollar for dollar linked to your prosperity, but I believe in some level it does correlate. Because if we accumulate wealth but our health is poor, then again, we haven't taken care of ourselves. So a few things. I have three habits that kind of become more of a ritual and a routine, right? Something's a routine until it becomes a habit. And a ritual is something that you do with intention. So you do it with maybe some additional steps. For example, on Sundays, I take time to clean off my desk very, very intentionally. I make sure that I lift every single thing. I wash everything that needs to be washed. And I make sure that I'm starting with a beautiful, clean slate. Why? Because I'm preparing the soil. I'm preparing those conversations right now. Those conversation doesn't start when you put on the Zoom. That conversation started the day or the week before. So things like that. So three things that I do every day is number one, we have to get out into the sun. A lot of people do not sleep well. They're worried and tossing and turning. And a lot of times it's because we're sedentary. We're in the house all the time, or we're in our office. Number one is within the first 10, 15 minutes is get outside and move your body. Now, if you're a runner and you can run for 20 miles, great. But if you're not, go take a walk around the block, right? Get out in the sunshine, and that helps to reset your circadian rhythm. Number two is I really believe in reading. I believe that reading will open doors that you never anticipated. And you can do reading for free. There's many, many books. You can go to the library. You can buy them really, really affordably. You can even go to online and use Audible if you're not a reader. And even if you don't have that, you can go onto YouTube. And many books are Audibles for free. And then number three is I pray and meditate every single day. And I'm very intentional about that, right? Sometimes people are doing those things, but they have the radio on them in the background. They have the kids coming in and out of the door. Like that's not really setting up that true financial prosperity. We have to be intentional about it. And it may mean that we have to take some extra steps to it. Maybe we tell the kids, listen, I'm going to be gone. Here's a timer. Here's a little egg timer. Maybe we put a do not disturb sign on our door, or do some simple things that is being very intentional about that sacred time. We've got to give that time to ourselves and really take care of our mental and physical health. I think that is critical.
I've been practicing for a while now. When I say a while, a couple of years. Um, Something that includes some of what you've mentioned. Certainly, the time for meditation and prayer.
Yeah.
The part about clearing up the space, I really think that's extremely important. It's kind of, you can't really have something new to come into a cluttered space, right? You have to get the clutter out of the way. So, and the way and the various approaches, obviously, to doing that. You said something about cleaning your house, right? I found it also to have one of the things that helps me also is to have in those rituals, the first thing I do in the morning is before anything else is make up my bed, because
Yes.
that gives me something that I've actually accomplished, that I have total control over. So it's kind of like proof that I can do something and complete it, right? And then I can move on to the other activities. I like what you said about taking some time in the sunshine, getting out of your box, if you would, walking around. I remember reading also something, Leah, about if you actually change the routine, because that's what we're speaking about now, right? Routines and rituals and habits. People go to work or to play or to whatever they're doing the same way every day.
Right.
And I don't know how you can get any new information coming into your brain if you're doing the same thing all the time, every day. So maybe part of that routine would be to break your routines, if you would, so that you can get new information. What do you think about that?
I think that is brilliant. And let me kind of unpack a little bit of what you said. So, clutter creates confusion, cleanliness creates clarity. right? We're wondering why we have a lot of confusion in our life, but our house is a mess. Our car is a mess. We just, toss things anywhere. And I'm going to tell you, I'm a very messy person, but at the same time, I make sure it's cleaned up at the end of the day, right? We might be busy during that day, but take some time at some point where you put things back together, because then we can have clarity. I know for me, when I have a clear space, then I can think clearer, then more ideas come out of the ether. I think it's the Holy Spirit, call it intuition, whatever you want to name it. But I can hear clearer when things are clean and organized. When they're not, then I'm constantly thinking about that mess over there. Oh gosh, I got to get to that laundry. And listen, I raised 4 children. It is not easy to keep a clean house when you've got a lot of kids. But you know what? I got up early. I stayed up late. I was a crazy lady who was cleaning and I was cleaning my oven and shampooing my carpets at 11, 12 o'clock. I kid you not. My kids will wake up and the house is like all rearranged. You're like, oh my gosh, what did you do? So I just really believe that that is so critical. Hire a housekeeper. If I had it to do again, I would hire a housekeeper. I truly, truly would. It's a lot of work to clean a house and maintain that for your family.
You mentioned time, the use of time, and perhaps being a little unusual, strange when you're mapping out this new pathway for your success, whether it be in relationship or, and tonight we're talking about finances, and using the time that's necessary for you to get what you need to get done. So I'm wondering how people who are on the broadcast now, they're in a certain place financially, right? And probably in other areas of their life, they're in a certain place, right? And so we're actually asking them to break out of that space, to do something different, or at least different from what they're doing now or they have been doing in the past. And so if you were giving advice to someone on how to have a breakthrough in their current condition,
I
what
love
is
it.
the tool that you give to people or that you give to yourself to get outside the box, change your frame of reference? I mean, we say these things, but what is a tool you can give to people to actually do that?
I love that. I'm going to give you two. So, number one is I like to use mini days. I learned this from my mentor, Ed Milet. I have 3 mini days in one day: 6 a.m. to noon, noon to 6 p.m., and 6 p.m. to midnight. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm always awake at midnight, but if we can look at our day in those kinds of options. So, in other words, 6 to noon, what did I get done? Right? And every day the night before, I set up my day the night before and I look over, what am I eating? How am I driving there? Is it raining? Do I need snacks? Like all those little things. Where am I going to go to the restroom? Like we have to think of all those things, because otherwise we get stuck in the drive-through and guess what happens? It takes 30 minutes and now we're running behind. So that's number one, is break up your days into mini days. So if your morning didn't go well, reset at noon and then get everything done that you need to by 6, and then 6 to midnight. And here's the other thing. Wealth loves speed. I'm sorry, money likes speed, but wealth takes time. So if you feel like you need some help, do it now, right? Money likes quick, decisive actions. Understand that building wealth will take time, but God and the universe love for you to take quick, massive action. When you make that decision, you push the button, have a coffee chat with me, or do some research into who you're going to have help you, or even come to somebody for some guidance, right? Where can I start? Get 3 opinions. I'm totally fine with that. And understand that we didn't get here in one day. It's going to take time to undo the things that we've learned, the bad habits, the overspending, right? Not investing in ourselves, not paying ourselves first. So it will take some time to create new habits. But when you have somebody who's professionally guiding you, you have a much better rate of success than trying to figure it out yourself. So I hope that helps.
So, what I gathered from that is that one's first step might be to pick up the phone and make an appointment with you or someone like you who can get the ball rolling for them, right? I mean, that would be a number one action. I really appreciate it also your reference to breaking the day into time parts. It's like, well, you didn't, it could, for most people, I would assert, you start your day in the morning and you get to noon and you haven't done anything. And like, it's like, okay, the day's over. I didn't get what I wanted to get done. Might as well go on to
That's
whatever it is, right? But if it's like, no, it's noon, I get a second crack at this, right? And then
right.
at 6 p.m., I get a third crack at this. This is really
Oh,
freeing.
absolutely. I love the way that you reposition that. Absolutely. You get a do-over button 3 times in one day, right?
Mhm.
Because if you rolled out of bed on the wrong side, I say go back to bed, roll over, and get on the other side of the bed. Okay. You can push the do-over button 3 times in one day. And by the way, when you do that over a week, over a month, now you've just condensed 3 months into that 1 month's time. And think about that, right? We call it kaizen in karate, which is little improvements over time that have tremendous results.
Say that again. What kind of karate?
I practice Shotokan traditional karate, and we call it kaizen, which is small efforts over time that have significant results, right? So if we just go to the gym one day, that's not going to have any result. But if we go to the gym over a 90-day, 100-day, over a 6 months period, maybe we go 20 minutes. I'm not talking about a 3-hour gym, cycle. I'm saying you go to the gym for 20 minutes over a 6 month period, you're going to find your health is completely different. You're going to be stronger. You're going to be more flexible. Guess what? You're going to have more clarity. You're going to feel like you can do hard things. My precious grandson is 6 years old, and we talk about this all the time. I taught him this. I'm a champion, and champions do hard things. And whenever he's doing something that's challenging, I say, Mijo, what are you? He says, I'm a champion, Gam Gams. I said, that's right. And then he finishes it on his own now. He says, and champions do hard things. I said, that's right. Champions do hard things. Listen, this is not easy. We want everything to be easy, push a button. No, getting wealthy takes some work. But I promise you, if you do it over a time period, right, in a year, 2 years, 3 years, and you look back and you see that your debt has come down, you see that you're accumulating some assets without risk. And by the way, now you have a financial plan and you have your living trust, that gives you more encouragement. And now you feel like, okay, I can do this.
I'm want to have our guests have another chance to hear about you again. So we're going to go ahead and listen once more. How to get access to Leah Garcia, financial planner.
Are you ready to take control of your financial future? Introducing Leah Garcia's Wall of Wealth, the ultimate one-page financial plan to protect, distribute, and transfer your wealth with confidence. Whether you're a business owner or just starting your financial journey, this step-by-step guide gives you the tools to create a solid foundation for long-term success. Don't wait to transform your money mind shift. Download your free copy today at leahgarcia.io and start building your wall of wealth now.
So, Leah, I think our guests have been with us for a while, and I'd like to see if they have any questions or
Absolutely.
comments about what we've been learning so far. So, Jason, let's hear what we've got. Well, I'll wait. While you're pulling that up, I have one more area that I want you to flesh out a little more. Actually, it was left hanging a little bit in the last. So, distinguish for me once, or for us, once more, the difference between routines, habits, and
Rituals.
yes.
Yeah. So this is my interpretation. Okay. It's not scientific. This is just how I frame it in my mind. So a habit is something that I've done over an extended period of time that I do on automatic, right? We drive home, we brush our teeth a certain way. A routine is something that we're attempting to create as a new habit. We're attempting to create that new synapses, that new connection. And a ritual is something we do intentional as a ceremonious. So, for example, when I go into the dojo, there's a certain way that we enter the dojo, right? There's a certain way that I put on my gi. There's a certain way that I put my gi back into my gym bag. Why? Because that's my ritual, right? It's something that's more than a habit. That you have more that is to me. It's I'm a Christian, so I don't know whatever your belief is, but it's a way to pay homage to your Creator, right? If we just take things and we just shove them everywhere, listen, I teach my precious grandson how to put his shoes away. I think that is critical, important. A lot of kids will just take their shoes and toss them aside. No, he knows when Gam Gams is there, he puts his shoes a certain way. We have to learn to be more intentional about the things that we're doing. So I
Mhm.
hope that puts a little bit that in a little
Right.
bit different light.
That actually makes it clear for me now. And we have a question now from one of our listeners about what you do for, or how this might work for people in other countries rather than the US. And I know that hearing from you, or at least looking at your name, yo creo que tú hablas español también. So I wanted to know what you're doing cross culturally, internationally, in terms of financial planning and strategizing.
Yeah, so I'm licensed to do business in the US, Puerto Rico, and Canada. I do have some strategies that will work outside of the US, but it really just depends. I do have some investment options that will work. Obviously, the one page financial plan will still work, but there are some different things that we have available to us in the US that are really exclusive to here. But if you travel to the US or you have business in the US, you own property in the US, then you can actually access a lot of the benefits that we have here in the US also.
And my question, thank you very much for answering that. And my question had to do with the, if is your work in the U.S. Across various ethnic communities? How useful might this be to people who are not necessarily of the majority ethnic community?
Yeah. I wish I spoke Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. I'm actually taking Spanish now because I do get a tremendous amount of referrals that are Spanish speakers. And I know that our culture is greatly underserved. I absolutely know that. I get people who call me and they definitely want to work with me, but I can't do them justice if I don't speak the language. So I do have some referral resources that I can share with them that do speak Spanish.
Very good. So, I'm delighted that we have had you for almost 55 minutes to talk to us about how we might actually get the financial piece, that piece done. I'm also inspired by the idea that even someone of my own demographic, if you would, at my age, I'll just put more bluntly, could be able to develop perhaps a plan, maybe for the next 5 years,
Yeah.
that would get me to where into a better place than where I am now. So I'm getting the sense from you, Leah, that it's never too late.
Thank you, because I totally agree. We can always push the do over button. It may look different than what we would like it to do, but maybe we start an encore career. Maybe we start a side business, right? Maybe we explore some other avenues once we retire back from our W 2 employee job to find some other ways to start generating some passive income streams, which I think is beautiful. I think everyone should have a passive income stream.
Well, that's a subject for another event, I would imagine, but we have a few minutes. So, you want to talk about creating passive income streams a little bit?
Start a business. I think starting a business, a home based business, is one of the biggest tax advantage that a lot of people miss. If you start a home based business, you can write off parts of your house, you can pay your children, you can use the Augusta rule and start renting out your house to yourself, by the way, and do a lot of fun things. Remember, it is about not about always making more money, it is about paying less money in interest, paying less money to Uncle Sam all legally, right? This is all legal, moral, ethical. I don't do anything that's in the gray area. But there are legal ways that we can reduce our taxes, keep more in our own pocket, and create that income stream. Also, like I touched on earlier, creating your own personal private pension, meaning having money that pays you regardless of what the market goes up, the market goes down, the market goes sideways. And that I truly believe, because I teach it all the time, we can have wealth without risk. We don't have to accept that we got to make money to lose money. Listen, the stock market has lost some points in the past couple of days. My clients never worry about what's happening in the stock market because they understand that they have wealth without risk. We can take out the risk off that table, create a passive income stream, that bucket of money that pays you for the rest of your life.
I've never had so much good news in 1 hour. I really appreciate you. I'm looking forward to working with you. And I highly recommend that if you're on this podcast with me tonight, that you consider working with someone to help you reach your financial goals. It's been an extraordinary evening with Leah Garcia, financial strategist, and it's been my pleasure to host her. I'm Dr. Michael Leslie, and I look forward to seeing you next week on the Alchemy of Success. Leah, thank you very much for being with us tonight. Could you repeat once more your website address so they can start working
It
with
has
you?
been truly an honor, Dr. Leslie. I appreciate the questions. I appreciate the time, and I appreciate your candor. I appreciate you asking these tough questions. My website is very simple, leahgarcia.io. leahgarcia.io. It's a smart link. You can learn a lot about me there.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching the Alchemy of Success podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next week.